welcome parents. We are excited for you to be joining us. For those of you who are new to Bethel, I can't wait to meet you. And however we do this, whether it's virtual or in person, eventually in person, welcome to Bethel. For those of you who have returning students or perhaps our alumni with students coming, welcome back. It's great to have you here. I am alumni coming back to Bethel. So if you're not familiar with who I am, I'm Ross Allen. I'm the new president of Bethel. Starting effective July 1 of 2020. So I am thrilled to have this fall be my first fall as a president and with your student coming in. So I'm thrilled to be back. My wife and I met here many years ago, and I've had the privilege of living the Bethel mission and having the benefit of living for God's glory and feeling like this journey of coming back is really an opportunity to come back and give back to God and give all that He has given me over these many years since then. So I am thrilled for you. I'm thrilled for your students. Thrilled to have students back on campus. I've been back for a few weeks here, and it is great to see a few students around here working and some prospective students coming around and visiting. And the excitement for this fall and having your students come back, I could not be more excited. This whole season, I think we're just all pent up with excitement to be back together again. And I know this Bethel community is a special one. As I said, I was here and it impacted my life for my entire life and affected our extended family's life. And so I trust that that will be the case for your student. I'm confident it will be. One of the things that has surprised me and the thing that perhaps I'm most excited about for you as parents is the opportunity for your students to come and experience Jesus in the flesh. I've been a part of some great communities, some great organizations, and I was, the one thing I was hesitant about coming to Bethel was I was leaving a place that my wife and I loved and that we felt a part of and felt that Jesus was there in the midst of that place. And from day one, I've got to tell you, the community here, from the very first step and every step as I move toward the fall, I am just overwhelmed with the people that are here and the experience of Jesus being in this place. And so I'm excited for your student to come here. I realize that students are coming with all different backgrounds, all different perspectives. And I think that's one of the things that makes this a refreshing and lively place is that students come and you have those debates in the dorms or you have those discussions with your faculty that your professors that really challenges your faith, your views of life. And then of course the co-curricular, which is such a critical part. And so I hope your student gets an opportunity to dive in. It's going to be a little different this fall. I get that. But as plans are coming together, and we'll talk about that. In fact, Liz is going to talk in a few minutes about that. It will be different, but it's going to have that same spirit about that because I can sense that even when this campus is still not full of people, that Jesus is here and the commitment of this place to glorify God, which was what so affected me, and then to go out and make an impact for God and for His glory is such a powerful place. And it is only because of your students that come here. So I'm excited for them to be here and for us all to join together. So look forward to meeting you, whichever forum we end up doing that in. Thanks.
Thanks, Ross. My name is Jennifer Scott, and I am the Director of Alumni and Family Relations. So typically, I get to meet both alums and families, and it's really fun when they're both, but it's also fun when someone is brand new to Bethel. So for those of you that are brand new to Bethel, we welcome you with open arms, and we hope that this session gives you a little bit of information about what your student is going to experience this fall, about what you can expect, and about how we can support you as a family member, but also for your students' support as well. So I'd love to introduce Liz Miller, who is the Director of Health Services at Bethel. She's going to share about some of the work that she and her team have been doing and how they are ready for your student on campus.
Hello, it's great to be a part of this group. And as I look at the faces on my screen, amazing individuals. I mean, I'm also a Bethel alum. I met my husband at Bethel. Our youngest of three graduated a year ago from Bethel. And there are people in this meeting that greatly impacted my children. And I will echo what Ross said about the community. I mean, I feel like I got outstanding, like world-class education, but the community piece of my experience truly ranks up at the top of my lifetime experiences. And that's why we're doing whatever possible to make face-to-face, modified face-to-face a reality, because it is such a huge part of the Bethel experience. And And so as Director of Health Services, I've been at Bethel for 18 years. And so I feel like I kind of hit my stride with running an on-campus clinic for students, and just the value of having an on-campus medical clinic that not only, meets with students and encourages or treats health-related issues, but then actually usually follows up in a variety of ways just based on a conversation that's had in that exam room. And that's the value of the on-campus, experience with medical and with clinic. When your student goes to a local or community clinic, they probably get excellent medical care, but they aren't viewing that student from a lens of, are they going to fall back in classes, and are they having roommate issues, and are they not feeling like they're, a part of the community? And my small but powerful staff will always attend to that and do what we need to do to follow up and refer them out to other resources on campus. So in terms of fall, I've had the privilege of serving on the COVID response team, and now we're calling it the steering committee because we're moving from responding to COVID and all that entailed to now planning for resuming a modified face-to-face in the fall. And so I have been on the front lines for the first time, and it's been a really difficult but also incredible experience. And really my role is to really keep public health at the forefront of our decisions that are made, following extremely closely our state Department of Health, which I've been extremely impressed with, and just keeping up to some of the changing and evolving recommendations and guidelines in terms of like opening up any type of business or community. And so we follow those guidelines extremely closely. So I would say that right now we're doing a lot in the way of planning for the ability to do on-campus testing. And currently there is a bit of a turnaround in terms of results for testing, but there are promising, there's word out in the community that they're hoping, we've got a little over 2 months to work with, that they may be able to come with a more simplified, like results right away type of test. And we're certainly hoping and praying for that. That would help a lot. But regardless, we will work to provide on-campus testing, and we're actually looking into entering into contract with a partnership between Mayo Clinic and the University of Minnesota, which is both of them stellar organizations, obviously, and by far, currently anyway, their testing in terms of turnaround and just the validity is excellent. So that's an encouraging development. We are also, we have a committee that's looking at contact tracing. So once a positive case is identified among students, we'll have a team to go and check in and find out what individuals might be considered a close contact. And one thing I want to really emphasize to parents is, and we will be doing this as well, but communicating really the incentive and importance of social or physical distancing is what Michael Osterholm prefers. He's a very well-known epidemiologist. The 6 foot is the current guideline. And so if students just know that, absolutely whenever possible, there may be occasions when you're passing someone, on your way in and out of the restroom or a classroom, but the masking and the 6 foot distancing is absolutely crucial. And the incentive is, once a student might be identified as testing positive, they will then be asked to provide names of individuals that they have spent time with 15 minutes or more at less than 6 feet distance. So keep your name off that list, because otherwise you will be sent into a quarantine, 14 days, that's a long time. And while we're going to try and, set up protocols and resources and academics to accommodate that, wow, I feel like that's a huge incentive. So, reminders, and I know that parents aren't always the most, I don't know what the term is. I mean, I raised three adults, and my voice was not always the one that they heard as strongly. So within reason, but we will also be communicating that message. And then the one last thing I would say is, we are in the midst of hiring and interviewing for a nurse practitioner or physician assistant. I just found out that we can also open it up to physician assistants as guidelines have changed related to supervising doctors. So we're going to have a daily provider on campus. We're also repurposing spacing to allow for a separate respiratory clinic, which will then keep those illnesses from intermingling with our regular medical clinic for students that are struggling with something completely unrelated to COVID based on their symptoms. So I'm impressed with the level of commitment and detail and truly just passion that our higher ups or our upper administration are willing to do to make this experience happen in the fall. And health services has an amazing staff. Like I said, we've ranked, I'm going to toot my horn here and say we've ranked at the very top of student surveys in terms of satisfaction. So we are ready, and we are so ready to see students again and to just enter into life together and provide encouragement and support for them.
Thanks, Liz. I am a Bethel parent, and I just want to say how thankful I am that people like you are doing your jobs and doing your jobs well and keeping our students, our staff, our faculty safe and giving reasonable accommodations. I feel really good about the care that our students are going to receive. So physical wellness is one thing, and emotional and relational wellness is another. So I'm happy to introduce to you Miranda Powers, who is one of our deans of our students in student life, and she's going to share about Welcome Week, about gathering with students in general on campus, and how we're going to care for them in other ways.
Thanks, Jennifer. My name is Miranda Powers, and I serve as the Dean of Student Programs here at Bethel. And I'm here today to talk to you about one of my very most favorite things, Welcome Week, as well as us all being back together. I'll share a brief update about programming this fall. It's hard to believe that just from about 6 weeks from now, we'll have student athletes back on campus. And we couldn't be more excited to welcome you all back. Our goal with Welcome Week and with students coming back to campus is always to transition students into Bethel with the love of Jesus. And I want to assure you that that is happening this year. We're working hard to plan some meaningful activities for your students and to give them a great start academically, spiritually, and socially. In fact, our Welcome Week team is made up of upperclassmen student leaders, and they've been meeting since January, even in the virtual environment, to prepare for your arrival. In early March, pre-pandemic, our theme verse and theme for Welcome Week was chosen. So I want to share that with you because I think it's particularly applicable for what we're experiencing now. This year's theme is Genesis, New Beginnings, and the theme verse is Isaiah 43:18 through 19. And it says, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I'm making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland." And as I've pondered this verse this spring, I thought, man, it's no accident that our theme verse this year talks about the Lord's new and restorative work in the midst of difficulty. And I think part of what makes Welcome Week so special at Bethel is that it marks our official welcome into this special community that so many of the previous presenters have shared about, right? Families will often share with us that the feeling of confirmation that they experience when they set foot on our campus and experience our Welcome Week programming. And although Welcome Week is going to look a little different, our goal in every area is for you to have confirmation that you've chosen the right place for your student, that they've chosen the right place. And Bethel is a place where students will grow and learn and change and be challenged and be loved on and be mentored. And that is one of the reasons why we know it's so important for us to be together face to face. So as we've planned Welcome Week programming, your safety and well-being has been at the forefront of our minds. Programming this year for Welcome Week is going to include both virtual and face-to-face formats. I do want to let you know, for parents, our parent programming is mostly going to exist virtually. And students will participate in both face-to-face and virtual programs as part of their Welcome Week experience. I know many of you, both returning and new parents, are wondering really specifically, when is my student moving in and what does that look like? What should I bring? What should I not bring? And so I want you to know that we're working hard on those lists. I maybe wouldn't suggest 2 futons for your room this year, but maybe, stock up on those Clorox wipes right now as they're starting to reappear at Target. We're going to send out some really specific details to address your specific questions in the coming weeks. But generally speaking, I want you to know that move-in days will be more spread out to allow for social distancing. And we'll have opportunities for you to get your students set up in their residence halls and to take care of anything that they need, including books and other things to get them started well. As the date gets closer, we'll allow you or your students specifically to sign up for a move-in time, depending on what group they fall into. I will tell you, some students will have an assigned day and maybe more specifically time. Others of you will be able to sign up again through your My Housing. So we'll talk to you a little bit more about that as we continue on here with details. Many of you are familiar with our Bethel specific way during Welcome Week of unloading your cars in less than 3 minutes. I have to tell you, I don't think that's going to look exactly the same this year. But for those of you who do want some assistance, we will have the option of having some help or no help, depending on your comfortability. And for all you returning parents who wish we did this for you every year, keep bringing your students to Bethel, and you can experience it again and again. So if you're planning to be a commuter this fall, I just want to address you specifically and let you know that we have a good plan for you to get started well too. And that there will be things, programming and otherwise communication that will be just specifically for you. The others have alluded to this, but once students are on campus, I just want to acknowledge that what we're asking them to do in some ways might feel a little bit different and inconvenient to them at times. We're going to be asking students to think critically about how the choices that they make might impact those that they're living with, specifically in residence halls, or those they're in classes with, or their professors who may be high risk. And we know that our ability to be together and to stay together is really predicated on students understanding their connection to one another. So as we ask them to make lower risk choices about their exposures, to be on campus more, and to really consider the Bethel campus their family in some ways, our residence life staff as well as student activities are working hard to plan engaging social connections, just like they do every fall, that will keep students engaged and on campus, as well as connecting socially. Commuter students, as I addressed to you earlier, know that we're also planning some specific programming just for you to help you navigate coming to campus this fall. What does it look like to get on campus each day, to park, to feel connected socially? We're thinking about all of those things. As we look forward to this fall, know that we are excited to be together. I think all of us have shared that. It's been far too quiet on Bethel's campus. And I also want to just say, I really believe we have a great plan in place to keep the safety and well-being of our students in mind. So as you begin to receive communication from us with these details, know that we're here to answer any questions that you might have. And we're excited to welcome you back to the special community that is Bethel.
Thanks for sharing, Miranda. I really appreciate that. I appreciate your perspective and the work that you and your team are doing to engage our students well. I would love to introduce Pastor Laurel Bunker to you. She is coming to us live from St. Paul, I'm assuming, because you look like you're in the same place I've seen you in other meetings. Thank you for being here today to share with our parents about what your plans are for caring for the spiritual needs of our students and our community, and for just loving our students well.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, and official welcome to you parents, you first-time parents, and returning parents and families as well. We are so looking forward to having time with you and time with your students, be it virtually or face-to-face. You know, God is on the move, and God is always moving at Bethel. And despite the things that are happening in our world, we know that God is working all things together for our good. This summer, my team and I had the privilege, actually, not only this summer, but back into the COVID times and well into now, we've been working on putting together really good content that would keep our current students engaged and excited about the gospel. Whether we're face-to-face or whether it is me coming through some kind of level of technology, the important thing is that the gospel is lifted high. And that's one of the things that we do best at Bethel University. Whether it's on a field, in a classroom, whether it's in a clinic of some sort, or whether it's the work that we do together in student life and in our office and Christian formation and church relation, Jesus is at the center of all that we do. And so as we've been working on making sure that there is good content to carry your students through this time of COVID, we've also been looking at how to best care for your students once they return back to campus. I do want to offer you some information on a couple specific things. The first is that there will be chapel. We will be in the Benson Great Hall Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, although our time together will be amended. And so we are looking at having chapels from 10:25 to 10:55, and that's a 30-minute time of celebration together as opposed to 45. What that's going to allow us to do is to have extra passing time so that when students leave the Great Hall and other locations that we'll have across the campus, it will give a more distance between our students and ensure that there is more health. In addition to having students in the Great Hall, we're also looking at other large spaces across the campus, like the Underground, BC 468 in our Brush Arbor Commons, and other spaces so that we can assure that students are still having a wonderful experience, but also having good, healthy social distancing. So most of the time when we do chapel, it will be myself or whoever is speaking and our worship teams and a limited number of people perhaps in the hall, but then having people spread out throughout the campus so we can optimize our worship experience, but also ensure that students are kept safe. In addition to that, we'll be working with our residential teams to offer shift and our discipleship programs. We'll make sure that all of the protocols are necessary, and we'll make sure that we're masked up, that we've all got all of our health care taken care of, that we're working directly with Liz and others. But we want to make sure that we also step into the very intimate spaces where students get to live and learn in order to be able to offer our discipleship programs. We're working very closely with Miranda Powers and others that you've heard from to ensure that we are working together so that as we step into those spaces, students are healthy and we are healthy, and that we can focus on the gospel together. Beyond that, our focus and our goal will make sure that our worship is high, that we're interacting with our faculty and our staff to ensure that together we are creating the most robust, exciting, gospel-centered experience for your students as possible. Because while I get to be the champion and cheerleader, and oftentimes the primary person that's delivering the gospel, I want you to know that the gospel is preached and ministered everywhere on our campus. In the classrooms, through our coaches, in the residential halls, when they're seeing a counselor, no matter where they are, we are committed to ensuring that Jesus is at the center of all that we do. We love one another well. We are committed to loving you well and loving your students well. And let me say this. We know that your students' experience will be challenging sometimes. Being away from home is hard. I've got a daughter who's going to be a sophomore in college, and I've got a daughter who is a senior in high school and hopefully will be a Bethel University freshman the year after. And so I understand how hard it is to let go of your children and to bring them into the presence of individuals, and then you've got to let them go. So I, as a parent, am living what you are also living. But I can tell you this, not only on behalf of Bethel, but on Christian institutions across the country that I work with on a regular basis. We are all praying for and believing that God is going to show us the best way to deliver the gospel. Your children are going to hear from high quality preachers and speakers. They're going to have opportunity to be able to think critically about what this means. They're going to be able to wrestle with those concepts. And when they're not sure what to do, we will see those students either virtually or face-to-face with 6-foot distancing. The reality is we want to see your child grow in their faith and in their cultural and spiritual and biblical competence. We want them to be rooted and grounded. So by the time they walk across that Bethel stage, they will have the Bible in one hand and their degree in the other, and be able to wield both successfully for the kingdom of God. So we're excited to connect with you, excited to connect with your students, and excited to lift Jesus Christ high together. Please be praying for us as you pray for your students. It's going to be an outstanding year. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Pastor Laurel. I really appreciate your enthusiasm and your commitment to the spiritual life of our students and our community. So, of course, we want to make sure that we cover academics. Our students are here to learn, to study, and to, as Pastor Laurel said, have their Bibles in one hand and their degrees in the others. And we want to make sure that they're learning well and learning in an environment which provides safe distancing, but also really high-level engagement. So Dr. Chris Garretts is going to be here to share with us about what it looks like from the faculty perspective and what the classrooms are going to look like for our students. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for inviting me in to talk on behalf of my colleagues on the faculty at Bethel. My name is Chris Garretts. I'm a professor of history and chair of the Department of History. I think I'm about to start my 18th year at Bethel. This fall I'll be teaching 3 classes. I have an upper level history and political science class on the Cold War, and then 2 first-year gen ed courses that especially newer parents, your students might get to know well. One is called Christianity and Western Cultures, CWC. The other is called Inquiry Seminar. I'll say more about those in a second. So what can you expect in classes? It's hard to know exactly what to say right now. 2020 is the year of the unexpected. Even as we speak, I've got lots of colleagues on lots of different working groups trying to think through how this is going to work. So what can I say? Well, first of all, know that even here early in the summer, we on the faculty are starting to think about what this is going to look like. We're brainstorming, we're talking to each other, we're dreaming up things, we're learning new tools and technologies. But let me underscore 3 things, especially in my time, that I think you need to hear as parents. The first thing is that we want your kids to be safe. And I mean that in a couple of different ways. First of all, we want them to be physically safe in the midst of a pandemic. And so I know that we're only going to be back on campus because people from offices like health services with Liz, facilities management, HR, academic affairs are working together to think about how we can do this, how we can keep students and employees safe. And so as faculty, we need to do our part of that. We need to think about how we can use classroom space differently, how we can have that physical distance Liz talked about, how we can record video, make material available online if students have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks or otherwise feel like they can't be in class. That's our responsibility to keep your students physically safe. We also want them to be emotionally and spiritually safe too. Whether they were at Bethel this past spring, another college, or if they were finishing high school, your kids have been through a lot the past couple of months. Upheaval, disappointments, uncertainty. And right now they might be feeling shell-shocked, or they might be feeling anxious. They might just be feeling antsy and ready to move out, leave home, and go to Bethel. But however they're feeling, know that one of the reasons you want to come to a place like Bethel is that you're going to be part of a Christian community where your children are going to be known and loved and cared for by their campus pastors, by their RAs and RDs, by other employees, coaches, mentors, and by their faculty and their friends. So well beyond what I can do as a teacher, just know that there are a lot of supports that are going to be in place for your students as they navigate this transition. Services provided by people in offices like Miranda's and Liz's and Laurel's, people who work in our fantastic academic support center, which offer out an array of tutoring opportunities. So just know that your students are going to be physically safe, emotionally and spiritually safe. And in that sense, things are as usual. That's always part of our goal here at Bethel. But things are also going to be different. And so the second thing I want to say to you is that we're using this as an opportunity to be innovative as teachers. I wish you could have seen everything that went into the transition in March and April, as we all suddenly had to move online. Some of us had already taught online, some of us had never done it, but in the space of about 2 weeks, our faculty completely rethought how to teach their classes halfway through a semester. And I think in the process, we probably learned some things about teaching and learning, and we're probably going to be doing something like that over the summer into the fall. So as we learn more about what we can and we can't do in the classroom this fall, whether it's having only half the class in a classroom at one time, whether it's finding ways to make class available to students remotely, I'm excited to try new approaches to teaching and learning. So let me just say a little bit about 2 of the classes I'm teaching. And of course, this will look different. Physics labs will have to be creatively taught. Painting classes will have to be creatively taught. Clinicals for nursing and social work will be creatively taught. So in CWC, this is a big first year Western Civ church history class. You do a little theology, a little philosophy. We're going to continue something we did last spring, which was to record faculty podcasts or webisodes. It's a good way to review material, but it also gave us a chance to expand the conversation beyond the classroom, and especially to start connecting the past to the present and to really respond to whatever was in the news, whatever's happening in our culture. This summer, we're actually right in the middle of teaching our regular summer session, which is online, and we're experimenting with using Flipgrid videos as a way to provide feedback, to build some community virtually. That's something we're trying now in case it's something that we can use in the fall as well. And then I think the biggest change is that this is one of the few classes at Bethel that does have big lectures. And we can't put 140 students even in our biggest lecture hall. So we have to rethink how we do this with fewer students. And so it probably means is having half the students there on Monday, half on Friday, and then the rest of it will be available online through recorded lectures. But it also means that we're shifting our schedule. It's actually created some space for us to create a special unit after Thanksgiving where our sole purpose will be to bring the story up to the present day. We usually stop around the year 1800. This year, we want to bring it into the present. And we want to connect past to present and think about some pressing issue the Christians should be dealing with. Whether that's how we fight racism in the aftermath of the death of George Floyd, what it looks like for Christians to be involved in politics in a contentious election year, or something else, that actually creates some space for us to be innovative and maybe do a better job of connecting past to present. So that's CWC. And then the other class I'm teaching, another first-year gen ed course, is called Inquiry Seminar. This is kind of an introduction to liberal arts, to speaking, to writing, to research at Bethel. There are usually about 7 or 8 sections on different topics from different faculty. Mine is called The Fog of War. I teach a lot of war classes in our department. I teach classes on World War I, World War II, the Cold War I mentioned. This is a little bit different because it's not just the history of war. In Inquiry Seminar, we're going to be going beyond this and thinking about how lots of different academic disciplines help us see war differently and distinctively. And so we're going to go through everything from psychology to poetry, film to physics. And I'd always wanted to do that, but I think one thing I'll do because of our response to COVID is use Wednesdays to do some distance learning and to actually create Zoom sessions where I can bring in outside experts to talk from different perspectives, whether that's a colleague like Chris Moore, who's a political scientist here who teaches terrorism and counterterrorism. But maybe also when we do a unit on journalism, I can bring in a photojournalist like my Uncle Jim, who was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize for telling the stories of military families affected by the war in Iraq. Or we have a recent alum at Bethel, Alex Potter, who is a photojournalist who's been covering the civil war in Yemen. It'd be hard to bring to campus otherwise, but this way I can actually bring them in and expand the conversation as we keep thinking about war from different vantage points. So in that sense, things should be different, right? And I'm kind of excited to try out some new things because of the challenges that COVID imposes. But let me close with something that should not be different at all, which is however we do this, you should expect that the education your kids are going to get at Bethel is going to be transformative. I said this back in April to a group of alumni, and I mean it as strongly for the fall and beyond, that the way we teach and learn might be different, but the quality of education should be superior and rigorous. We are still going to prepare graduates who have the hard and soft skills necessary to adapt to a fast-changing economy. But at a Christian liberal arts college, you should expect more than that, right? You should not just get job training. You should be answering the biggest questions that your kids are thinking about. And they're probably asking some pretty big questions right now about themselves and the future and the economy and politics and society and God and suffering and what you do with fear. This is what you come to Bethel to do, is to wrestle with those questions. This is why we have programs in theology and in biology and in art and philosophy and nursing and social work and history. They help us answer those questions. And so whether it's face-to-face or online or modified face-to-face or hybrid, know that we are here to form whole and holy persons who seek God's glory and our neighbor's good. Know that I want for your kids what I want for my kids, that they're going to grow as faithful followers of Jesus Christ, who are going to be critical thinkers, who are going to be compassionate neighbors and committed citizens who seek to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with their God. So on behalf of our whole faculty, I want to thank you for your prayers. I want to thank you for your support. And most of all, I want to thank you for trusting us with the joy of educating your children. Thank you so much.
Chris, thank you so much. Truly and honestly, I am personally, I know we all are so thankful for our faculty, for the way that you have really adapted well to this environment, and it's forcing you to be creative and thinking outside of the box. And you're asking our students to do that, and you are doing it as well. And I'm really thankful for that. So we have a lot of information that we've been gathering and taking note of over the last couple of months. And so some of you parents might be wondering, where's Bethel at? What are you doing? And I feel like we've been gathering it. Now it's time to release this information. So hopefully this is the first of many pieces of information that are coming your way in the next couple of weeks. So here are some things I'd like to ask you to look for. Number one, I would encourage you to follow the new Bethel University Family and Parent, or Parent and Family Facebook page. We're going to start, as we get information, we're going to start putting it out to you there. It's not going to be as thorough as maybe something like this, but at least to let you know that it is time to pay attention to some new information that's up and coming, including really fun events that are going to be taking place for parents. Secondly, I want to encourage those of you who are new parents to Bethel. So if you have a post-secondary student, if you have a transfer student, or a traditional College of Arts and Sciences student, we have some different parent meetups that I'm hosting from our office. We're bringing in some seasoned parents to come join the conversation to answer questions like, what does my student need for their dorm? Or how did your student who's a commuter get involved? Or what was it like for your student to be a post-secondary student? Did they fit well with other students? So those seasoned parents are going to be answering your questions in ways that you might do it in a coffee shop or at a social that we aren't able to offer this fall, but we want to make sure that we're giving the same experience, even if it's a different venue. So be looking for those parent meetups in the evenings on July 9th, 10th, 20th, and 21st. You'll be receiving information in your email inbox, but also we already have those up on our parent Facebook page. Then I also want to let you know that for those of you who are returning parents, you know that we offer quarterly newsletters, and that newsletter is coming in the next week or so in early July. And that's where we'll welcome our new parents to that e-newsletter. But I also want to let you know, for continuing parents, there is a special survey that's coming out for you from our office, and it will really help us with our programming. It really helps all of us sharpen ourselves to know what we can do better. So I encourage you to fill out that survey. There will be a link coming in in an email, but also in that e-newsletter. So look for those kind of updates. You might feel like you're getting inundated, but that's just because we now have information ready to release according to COVID regulations, and our staff and faculty responding to those things as we can. So we're excited to be able to meet you face to face, but until then, we hope that we can continue these kind of conversations so you feel like you are making Bethel a part of your family, and we can't wait to make your student a part of ours. So thank you for spending time with us this evening. We hope that it's been helpful. And as always, you can reach out to me in our office at Alumni and Family Relations, and I'm happy to find you the right answer if I can't answer it myself. So, and now I would like to hand it off to our new president, Ross Allen, for us to close us out in prayer.
Hey, thank you again for your time, and what a great opportunity for you to get a little sample of what your student will experience. So join me in prayer as we close. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this place and for these students. We lift up this group of students and ask that you just surround them and fill them and guide them. We are so grateful that we can be a part of their lives, and that you have led them to this place at this season, at this time. What an honor it is to surround them with gifted, committed people that are passionate about them. And Lord, we just ask that this will be a season of tremendous impact for them, for this entire community, for each of us, that we see you anew, and that, in fact, this group of parents will see you through Bethel, through their students, and through those they interact with. Lord, help us to be humble servants of yours. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.